Sitting at the table now, virtually as well, is Kristen Waggoner. She's the president, CEO, and general counsel at the Alliance of Defending Freedom, and she joins us now. Hi, Kristen.
Hi, how are you?
Good to have you. Just to set you up, your group, the Alliance Defending Freedom, has been defending free speech. You're best known for the Colorado Baker case. And we thought it would be good to bring you in. Free speech is a very important issue to all of us. And there's stuff going on now that we're not aware of. And we thought we'd have you walk us through some of the three biggest cases that we don't know right now going on defending free speech. So we'd love to sort of give you the steering wheel, and we'll let you take it away and give us case number one.
Sure, I'm happy to. Well, ADF is the largest legal organization that is defending free speech and religious freedom and parental rights. And we've just launched the Center for Free Speech because previously we were litigating more cases than anybody else on campuses, public campuses, based on the First Amendment. But we are seeing a rising tide of censorship in the United States and also globally, and it predominantly affects digital platforms, so speech online. And we believe that that is not just a threat to the European Union or countries abroad, but again, we're seeing it in the United States. Right now, we've had 16 victories at the Supreme Court in the last 12 years or so, and we have 4 this next term alone. And all of those in some way touch on speech. So I think the first one I would raise for your listeners to be aware of is one that is at the Supreme Court right now, and that is the case called Chiles, and it involves licensed counselors in over 100 jurisdictions in 20 different states. States have passed laws that say if you have a patient that comes to you, someone under 18 that has a voluntary counseling relationship, wants to set some goals, and they're confused about their identity and they want to align that identity with their biological sex, it is wrong. You can lose your license for agreeing to have a consensual conversation about that to help that client voluntarily align with their goals. So that's a speech case. It's a violation of the First Amendment, and it's at the United States Supreme Court.
Let me see if I understand, Kristen. So therapists have a client come in, and that client is underage, and they're having confusion, you said, about their identity. So I'm assuming this is gender identity issues. I don't know if it's sexuality issues, and there's a reason I bring up sexuality. But if that, I'm assuming the situation you're describing is if that counselor doesn't sort of endorse where the kid is headed, if they have a therapy session to talk about it, talk through it, that might not be a full endorsement. Is this kind of under the banner of the conversion therapy thing? Like you shouldn't be having quote unquote conversion therapy. Conversion therapy famously is the religious and therapy practice of if a kid is saying that they're homosexual, but they may or may not want to be, then a therapist or a preacher starts talking to them about that. And, maybe you're not. And maybe, and it's been vilified as something that is bad for kids. Is this kind of what we're talking about here? That therapists can't go down this path that's being challenged at the Supreme Court?
Well, you know better than most people what the progressive left does in these types of cases, which is they use messaging that doesn't describe accurately what's actually happening in the case or what the law does. They like to label it conversion therapy. Conversion therapy there's no evidence in any of these laws that people are using shock methods or any of these types of things that the left likes to use. Instead, what this law actually restricts is speech, voluntary conversations between people, and forces counselors, it's viewpoint discrimination, it forces them to put the kid on a one-way conveyor belt to become a lifelong medical patient and struggle with their gender identity, and they can't have conversations that helps them live at peace.
This is fascinating, Kristen. I'm so glad we did this, and this is the number one case. So my kid goes into a therapist at the age of 16, let's say, and says, I'm having, a lot of thoughts about what my gender may be. I don't know. I'm feeling confused. I think I might be a girl. Unless that therapist endorses it. So if that therapist ventures down the path of, well, maybe you're not a girl. Let's talk about a few other issues that are going on. Then you're saying these states are precluding the therapists from going down that path. They have to go down the path of, yes, let's talk about that you might not be the right gender.
That's exactly what I'm saying. And gender ideology only thrives when the lies can persist, which is why the censorship issue is so important. The other cases that we were going to talk about are also out of Colorado, 2 other cases right now. involving a Christian bookstore called Born Again Used Books and the athletic apparel company called XXXY, founded by Jennifer Say. Colorado has passed a law that requires these companies to use the wrong pronouns and forces them, compels them to use these pronouns.
Really?
And if we just think about that for a minute, I mean, think about the XXXY business, right? Their whole existence is to promote the idea that men shouldn't be in women's sports and sex is binary. So this is compelled speech, and it's pervasively occurring in this gender identity context.
So all of these cases, I presume you just gave us your top 3 cases that we're not necessarily aware of or paying attention to. Am I right? Those are the 3 big cases you want to talk about today. I'm curious, how does that law force XXXY to use pronouns? Like in their advertising, in their corporate offices? What are you talking about? Like where do they have to use the prescribed pronouns?
If they are interacting with a customer and the customer says, this is my preferred name and these are my preferred pronouns, this is the way I want to be addressed, there is a legal obligation to do that. They're compelled to use those pronouns and those surnames under Colorado's law. That's compelled speech. And the real kicker is there are criminal penalties for it. You can have prison time, jail time for up to 4 months if you don't abide by this.
What is going on? How do I not know about this? How do I not know about this case? We need to put the bullhorn to this immediately. This is a 5-alarm fire. This is a free speech 5-alarm fire. You need to be on the Will Cain show on the Fox News channel today talking about this. This is insanity.
Well, I got a whole lot more where that comes from. In addition to those cases, we are seeing the Babylon Bee cases. There are 2 cases right now in Hawaii and California. And if you let those compelled speech cases go in Hawaii and California, they bleed into the other states eventually. California, as an example, has passed a law that says you can't create memes that are obviously memes, that are satire or parody, without putting huge labels and disclaimers and drowning out the joke. And they have passed laws that say large platforms can be penalized if they don't censor that speech in advance. Hawaii also has criminal penalties that are attached. So censorship is rising, and it's easy to think about it in European nations under the Digital Services Act. But we need to remember we're the last Western country in the world that is resisting the type of hate speech and misinformation laws.
And it's at the state level, to your point. Right now, what we're hearing from you is at the state level, at Colorado and California and Hawaii. But that being said, those states are still subject to the United States Constitution. Kristen, my gut on what I've learned about your cases so far, and I'm going to dive in, but from your characterization of your cases so far, ought to be a slam dunk at the United States Supreme Court.
I wish that were the case, Will. The fact that they are at the Supreme Court tells you how serious the threat is in and of itself. And I would say that throughout Western democracies around the world.
What is the Ninth Circuit? California, the Ninth Circuit is insane. What is Colorado in? What would it be like? What circuit is that? The Seventh Circuit? I don't know what that's like. But I don't expect something to be I don't expect it. I think a case could fly through a federal district court and through the Ninth Circuit appellate court to the Supreme Court with zero validity. Like the Supreme Court would still dunk on it. Just because it got through the Ninth Circuit doesn't mean anything. That'd be my guess.
Well, we have begun to win cases in the Ninth Circuit. So I do want to say that. And that's the impact of elections and being careful about who you put on the bench. So that circuit is turning. But I think the fact that we are litigating in every single space we have, in all of the different courts, we're seeing censorship that's occurring at the state level. And 1% of all cases actually get to the Supreme Court to be heard to overturn those types of cases. Now, thankfully, we're at an 86% rate right now. 6 of our last 7 petitions have been accepted, but the average petition has a 1% chance of getting adopted. And more than anything else, we can't continue to rely on 1 or 2 votes on the United States Supreme Court to protect these rights. When all the other Western democracies, they have written guarantees in their governing documents too. The First Amendment isn't about magic words. It's about citizens insisting that the government officials do not get to tell us what the truth is.
All right. Well, this is awesome. I'm going to be all over it, Kristen. I think you should expect to be hearing more from me. These cases are something else. I can't believe the nature of some of those cases. So we really appreciate you coming on with us today and highlighting some of the biggest cases that we weren't aware of. It was well worth our time. So
well, thank you.
Kristen Waggoner
I
from the
really
Alliance
appreciate
Defending
you
Freeomd.
covering it because it takes clients, it takes average Americans standing up, not just the lawyers. It's a fight for all of us.
All right, Kristen Waggoner, thank you so much for being on Will Cain Country.